Hey everyone, MichaelBtheGameGenie here, and it's the spooky season again. So today on Video Game Nostalgia, we're going to kick off Halloween Havoc by taking a look at some video games based on horror movies. That's right, horror movie video games.
Goodbye.
First things first, I want to thank everybody for the tremendous amount of support I've been receiving over the last couple of weeks. The channel is actually starting to see some really good growth, and I want to thank you guys so much. We're on the drive to 25,000 subscribers, and by subscribing, clicking the bell, enabling notifications, liking the video, commenting, telling your friends, we've been able to make the channel grow, and I really, really appreciate it, guys. Let's see if we can keep that momentum going. And of course, what a great time to be doing it because it's Halloween Havoc. Yet again, I'm so excited. I love Halloween. You guys know I love the spooky season. I love talking about video games and I love talking about horror movies. And what better way to combine those two loves this year than to do a bunch of video game nostalgia videos covering horror movie video games. That's right. These are video games that are based on horror movies. Not horror themes, actual horror movies like we used to go to the store and rent on VHS. Pretty excited about this. Unlike my other videos, this isn't system specific. This is just video games based on horror movies, and it's going to go across a number of systems. Anyways, let's get started with one which I'm pretty sure you all know is going to show up on one of these lists. No better place to start than with one of the most obvious games based on a horror movie and one of my personal favorites, Friday the 13th on the Nintendo Entertainment System. After almost 9 years on YouTube, I've made so many videos talking about this game, and I never really get tired of talking about it. It's like a favorite sweater that may also protect me from Jason. This is also extremely fitting as the last two videos I made were about games that are hard or bad, and a lot of people think this game is either one or both of these. As a kid, I will admit I honestly thought I would never be able to beat Friday the 13th on the NES because I had no idea where I was going, and the minute I came across Jason, I was dead. It's confusing, no doubt, and certainly a Nintendo Power game, as if you follow the in-game instructions and try to light all the fireplaces, you are never going to make it past the first day, or have the firepower necessary to defeat the masked maniac in purple and teal. Realistically, when you know what you are doing, it is possible to beat the game, and at the ripe age of 33, I finally managed to best Jason. I actually covered this in detail when I reviewed it way back when on YouTube, when my beard was a lot less gray. So if you want to know how to beat the game, you can go back and watch that video as I cover some of the basics like getting the torch on day 1 and facing Jason on the trails on day 2 and 3. Little did I know that it is even easier than when I found out how to beat Jason way back when, as there are other things you can do to speed up the process and make it more foolproof, such as passing off the torch to other counselors who have more health remaining, leaving cabins and forcing Jason to fight you on the trails, and letting the kids in the lake cabin die intentionally so you can be waiting on the trail near the opening of the lake to get a few hits in. It's all about understanding the mechanics and patterns of the game, and once you can get that down, you can even possibly speedrun this sucker, believe it or not. If this is something you guys are interested in seeing, let me know in the comments, and maybe I can do a playthrough instructional video called Friday the 13th NES the easy way. I mean, twist my rubber arm to make another video about Friday the 13th on the NES, right? But seriously, if it's something you want to see, let me know. Despite everything anyone wants to say about it, we 80s kids loved horror movies, and seeing arguably one of the best franchises in 80s slasher horror represented in a video game on the Nintendo Entertainment System was crazy to me back then. Despite the difficulty, confusion, and frustration it caused me as a kid, I was still blown away by being at Crystal Lake trying to protect kids and not get murdered by Jason Voorhees. Also, let's all be honest, Jason showing up out of nowhere on screen at any time was a massive jump scare for us kids, and even today, it still kinda has the same effect. I have a special place in my heart for Friday the 13th on the NES, and I especially enjoy playing it this time of year. I have no idea how a game based on 1974's Texas Chainsaw Massacre got made, let alone how this game ever, and I mean ever, got green lighted. People can talk about appropriate violence in video games, and I know there wasn't a rating system until after Mortal Kombat and Night Trap in the 90s, when the violence and gore was more realistic looking, but literally, you kill people in this one. That's right, in Texas Chainsaw Massacre on the Atari 2600, you kill people, and there is blood and bone, and apparently no one even blinked an eye. Okay, so let's talk about the game itself, and the first thing I want to mention is how simple but effective that start screen is. It's basically just the text stating Texas Chainsaw Massacre flashing on and off, but there is just something about it that seems ominous and punishing, and I feel that represents the movie to a T. The game starts, and yeah, it's an Atari 2600 game, so it's not a graphical masterpiece, and the mechanics are going to be extremely simplistic. If we can move past that and look at the game at its core, it's essentially a score-chasing game, which I have become extremely interested in my later years, where you play as Leatherface, running around with a chainsaw and trying to avoid obstacles and mow down girls. Well, honestly, I said it wasn't a graphical masterpiece, so I mean you're going to have to use your imagination, but yes, you are playing as Leatherface, and yes, that weird thing you are holding is a chainsaw. If I am not mistaken, this is the only horror movie game before we reach modern consoles where you play as the killer, as opposed to someone trying to get away from him. Like I mentioned, the objective here is to move across the playfield until you can come into contact with a person to kill with your chainsaw. This isn't as simple as it sounds, as there are obstacles everywhere, and if you are unable to avoid them, you just kinda get stuck on the object until it lets you free. Like I mentioned, it's simplistic, so instead of falling down, you just kinda pause. It's weird, but it is what it is. Why this is a problem is that you are constantly on a timer. As soon as the game starts, your fuel starts depleting, and essentially your fuel is your life bar here, so getting paused by hitting an obstacle is basically you watching your life drain away. When you do catch up to one of the people to kill, it isn't as simple as catching them, as you have to get exactly in range and press the action button to initiate your chainsaw. Doing so correctly will score you some nice points and leave the girl a bloody mess. But if you are unsuccessful in your attempt, your use of the chainsaw will hasten the fuel depletion. This means you have to be tactical and sure when attacking, as opposed to chainsawing wildly, which is what we all want to do here as Leatherface. The truth is, it's an Atari 2600 game. It's very limited, and there isn't much to do here for those looking for a campaign-type experience. But if you are looking for a quick romp and some fun mowing down people as Leatherface, this is the game for you. And who knows, you may even dig it enough to keep playing until you get good and start putting some impressive scores on the board. So this is one I don't think many people will even associate as being a horror movie game, because I'm not sure how popular it was as a horror movie or movie in general, to be honest. Like, I have seen some weird movies end up getting video game adaptations, but this one may take the cake. I don't really remember Warlock all that well, but I remember it having some very cool visual scenes. The movie was completed in 1988 by New World Pictures, but they didn't have the money to get it into theaters. It eventually was picked up by TriStar and had a limited release that garnered approximately $9 million. I guess that was good enough to warrant a video game on the Sega Genesis, and here we are. I said I didn't know how the last game got made because of its graphic violence, but this one, I mean really, Of all the great horror movies that came out around this time and era, Warlock somehow got a game. I apologize to the fans of the movie and game, but I mean, come on. I actually didn't even know this game existed until coming across it at a pawn shop and seeing the name. I asked myself, is this just a coincidence? But no, sure enough, this game is in fact made about the movie series, and more specifically, the events that start in the sequel. Your character comes out a portal and into a nice field, and you walk forward until BAM! The Warlock appears and takes down a bridge, and the chase begins. The Warlock starts turning all the animals and creatures around into possessed enemies, and you will have to take them down with your orb or your shot to progress. You can kill the animals before they turn into something else, but it kind of feels weird killing dogs, doesn't it? Something I find extremely interesting is that instead of a health bar, you get this weird ominous face on the screen, which I assume is your character's face, and as you take damage, parts of the face keep getting removed, leaving this skull behind. That's a cool way to do it, but I'm a simple man and prefer a health bar, a la Castlevania. Eventually you make it into a school of some sort, and the Warlock starts turning people into zombies, and you have to avoid them or take them down with one of your attacks. The school isn't as straightforward as the outside section, and you will have to do some problem solving in the stage to make your way through the school until you reach the end and go face to face with the Warlock. This is as far as I got because 1, I ran out of lives facing the Warlock, and 2, I wasn't really interested enough to try again. I will say that end screen showing Julian Sand's hair blowing in the wind is awesome and did give me nostalgia for the movie, so mission accomplished there. Realistically, this isn't a bad game by any means, and is completely playable, but I would just categorize it as okay, and nothing to get very excited about. That is, unless you are a huge fan of the series and wanted to see a video game adaptation. Were there people out there that wanted this? I don't know if there are any fans of the series out there, but if there is, should I go back and rewatch the movies? What about the game? Are there Warlock game fans out there? And if so, is it worth playing further and trying to master? If I know me, I will end up spending more time with the Warlock, both in the gaming world and on the silver screen. So guys, that's my list for horror movie video games. At least part 1 anyways. Of course, we're going to be doing Halloween Havoc all month long. I think I can at least do one more video game nostalgia, looking at video games based on horror movies. So what I want you guys to do is let me know what you think of the games that I included in today's video, and what other games would you like to see included in the next video. Are there some other games like maybe Nightmare on Elm Street, another personal favorite of mine? Do you want to see me talk about that one in the next video? Let me know. Or maybe I am not thinking of some very obvious ones that I completely left off that you guys would like to see. Let me know in the comments. What games based on horror movies should I include in my next video? And remember guys, we're going to be talking purely about retro here, so going all the way back to the Atari 2600 up to CD-based systems before the PlayStation 1, Saturn, that stuff. So games based on horror movies that are retro cartridge based. Is that the best way to say it? I'm not sure. You guys know what I'm talking about. Anyways, I want to say thank you very much for watching. Thank you very much for joining me for Halloween Havoc this year. There's going to be a video every single Saturday night of October, hopefully, and we're going to cover some cool stuff. There's going to be one more episode of Video Game Nostalgia for sure, maybe 2, and maybe even 2 retro video game reviews on games that are perfect for Halloween. Thank you very much everybody for watching. This is Michael B. the Game Genie, and I'll talk to you next time.